We are standing at the edge of history, looking back at a chapter we cannot allow to repeat. The last few years have been a case study in how fragile our republic really is when power is concentrated in the hands of one man and his enablers. If the pendulum swings back in 2026, assuming our so-called leader doesn't cancel those elections outright, it will not be enough to simply celebrate the return of checks and balances. It will demand structural change, because what we just lived through wasn't an accident. It was a complete misuse of power at every level, orchestrated by a man who may later be written off as cognitively declining, but was surrounded by an entire cabinet that knew exactly what they were doing. That excuse cannot be allowed to stand. We need accountability, not just for the dictator at the top, but for every official, every staffer, every opportunist who looked the other way, while the machinery of democracy was hijacked. This period should be investigated to the fullest extent, with no mercy for those who hid behind loyalty or fear, while dismantling the very system they swore to protect. If we stop at one man, we will learn nothing, because history doesn't repeat itself through lone wolves. It repeats through networks, enablers, and institutions that fail to draw the line. That's why the conversation, after 2026, cannot stop at back to normal. There is no normal anymore. The reality is that our system, as it stands, is too vulnerable to authoritarian capture. The Electoral College, gerrymandering, the Senate imbalance, and the stranglehold of two parties created fertile soil for this crisis. The path forward has to include a serious commitment to multiple parties, to more representation, to more avenues for people's voices to be heard. America has outgrown the duopoly. The next chapter must be about ensuring more separation of power, not condensing it. Because every time power condenses, it eventually corrupts. We saw it in real time. A presidency bloated with executive orders, cabinet members acting as cult loyalists rather than public servants, and a Congress too divided and timid to check the slide into authoritarianism. That cannot be our children's inheritance. A stronger system means new guardrails. A multi-party democracy would make it harder for one faction to hold the country hostage. It would force coalition building, compromise, and dialogue. It would mean no single man, no single party could so easily capture the courts, the military, the economy, and the national conversation. That's not weakness, it's resilience. That's not fragmentation, it's protection. For too long, America has treated democracy as if it's self-sustaining, as if the founders wrote a perfect script, immune to manipulation. We now know that is false. Democracy is not a finished building. It's scaffolding that needs constant reinforcement. So when the pendulum swings back, we cannot simply cheer and breathe relief. We must build. We must reform.